got anything on your person?
Well, phone.
Hand that over to my colleague, please.
I'll just put it in a bag for you.
Okay.
Have you got any other electronic devices?
No.
At the camp?
You have a laptop there.
Your laptop's there. Okay. Where's your laptop?
At the camp.
Whereabouts at the camp?
In the barn.
In the
It's
barn.
called the barn meeting room.
On the 27th of July 2025, Nottinghamshire Police received a call about a Christian summer camp in Melton Mowbray. Several boys and one adult had suddenly fallen ill, and the adult who raised the alarm feared it hadn't been an accident. Police officers finally arrived at the remote lodge the following afternoon. 8 children and 1 adult were rushed to hospital, and a brief search of the building began to reveal something far more disturbing. Not only had the sickness been caused deliberately, but a bright spotlight was about to be shone on the sinister reason why. All fingers pointed directly at the elderly camp leader, Jon Ruben. In this episode, we are going to take a look at how this case unfolded. I'm Gemma. Welcome to The Still of the Night. Hey guys, I hope that you are doing really well. Thank you so much for joining me for another true crime case. This one is slightly different because we are not talking about murder, although when I give you the facts of this case, you'll see how close this came to, potentially people losing their lives. So this is not a big deep dive into people's past and their history because honestly there just isn't an awful lot of information out there. We are also talking about victims, the vast majority of which are children who are still alive. So obviously we're not going to be talking about individual children. We're not going to be talking about kind of individual characteristics that may identify these very young victims. So let's talk about where this camp was. Stathern Lodge is a converted farmhouse in Canal Lane in the small rural village of Stathern, about 8 miles north of Melton Mowbray in Leicestershire. It's not some big sprawling campsite. It's essentially a countryside property with dorm-style accommodation that groups can hire out privately, taking advantage of its really beautiful location. And it really is surrounded by fields and greenery, kind of your traditional English countryside. And there's a real sense of seclusion. So groups that hire it out would have no concern that they would be bothered by anyone there. And just for clarity, before we move on, I think it's important to mention that the owners of the lodge have nothing to do with this case. And so for groups looking for that isolation, Stathern Lodge is absolutely perfect. And being surrounded by so much land, it is perfect to be hired out by groups that are putting on activities for children. And for 27 years, that's what Ruben had done. He ran a charity that organised Christian holiday camps for underprivileged children. These gave these young kids an opportunity to have a break in the Leicestershire countryside for a few days, to enjoy having fun and participating in activities based on Christian values and principles. Because Ruben, as you'll see, liked to present himself as a good Christian man, a pillar of the community, if you will. So let's look at what we know about Ruben's life. He was born on the 24th of March 1949, which made him 76 years old in July of 2025. He lived in Ruddington, Nottinghamshire, and has worked previously as a vet and a teacher. He was an active senior member of his local church, leading Sunday schools, evening classes, and youth groups. He very much placed himself into positions of trust, positions that included access to children. And it was through these church groups that he would choose which children would get to attend the summer camps. And on Friday, the 25th of July 2025, a group of children, all aged under 13, and a few volunteers, including Ruben's wife and stepson, made their way to Stathern Lodge to begin their summer camp. On Saturday evening, Ruben was in charge of putting a dorm of about 8 boys to bed, as he had done many times before. Like I said, he had been running these camps for almost 3 decades. And Ruben liked to play a very particular game that he had named the sweet game. He made the boys get into their pajamas, then gave each of them 3 sweets. And the rule of the game was very simple. Eat the sweets as quickly as possible, and the person who finished first was the winner. And on that Saturday night, Ruben's dorm was quiet as the boys went to sleep. Too quiet. You would think that a room full of young boys would be full of giggles and laughter. There would be footsteps with the boys getting in and out of bed and, just kids being kids when they're excited. But this dorm was silent. And on Sunday morning, all the boys had fallen ill with a mystery sickness. The same sickness affected Ruben's wife. But this wasn't just a typical bug. Some of the boys were struggling to get out of bed. They were difficult to wake. Their speech was slurred. At least one was described as walking into walls, and one went outside, laid down on the grass, and slept. When Ruben's stepson vocalised his concern, Ruben tried to play it off as just, boys being overly excited and that it was nothing to worry about. But sickness at these summer camps was not an unusual occurrence. In fact, it had happened many, many times over the years. Now, not convinced by Ruben's explanation, his stepson waited until Ruben was out of the way and started to search through his things. And there he found, amongst other items, syringes filled with white powder, Vaseline, baby oil, and sex toys. At just before 7 p.m. on Sunday, the 27th of July, Ruben's stepson called Nottinghamshire Police to report his concerns about the children's illness and what he'd found. Notts Police referred the case to Leicestershire Police, who didn't attend until around 4 p.m. the following day. During this time, at least one more phone call was made to the police. 1 adult and 8 children aged between 8 and 11 were sent to hospital as a precautionary measure after attendance at the lodge from East Midlands Ambulance Service. Believing that Ruben was responsible, the police initially arrested him on suspicion of administering a poison or noxious substance with intent. They then charged him with 3 counts of willful ill-treatment of a child.
Have you given any children anything?
Can't comment on that.
Okay. If you have, what is it that you've given them?
I can't comment on that.
Okay. Can you tell me if you did when you gave it to them?
I can't comment on that.
Can you tell me how much you gave them?
I can't comment on that.
And what's that question? Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. So, could any of the children have had anything else that could have led to them becoming unwell that you were aware of?
I won't comment.
And if so, what was it?
No knowledge.
And can you tell me when they took it?
Can't comment on that.
And how much of it they took?
Can't comment on that.
Jonathan, is there anything that you can tell us about the welfare of the children and possible reasons why they have become unwell?
I can't comment on that.
At the hospital, all victims had blood and urine tests. The toxicology reports confirmed the presence of a sedative. The boys were also given medical examinations, with 2 showing signs of sexual assault. Leicestershire Police began a 3-month investigation to find out what Ruben was actually doing at these summer camps. Forensic examinations of his electronic devices revealed videos and images of children, including boys as young as 6. More than 50 Category A videos, along with Cat B and C, were found. None of the images were of children at this camp. They also found something even more disturbing. They found evidence of a written application that Ruben had made to join an online paedophile group, describing his enjoyment of images and videos of young boys, particularly those depicting torture. when faced with this evidence, Ruben finally admitted everything. He admitted that he would give the boys 3 sweets normally and encourage them to eat as fast as they could. He explained that the fastest would win a prize. What the kids didn't know was that Ruben had injected these sweets with flubberomazolum, and I apologise to anyone in pharmaceuticals because I've probably just absolutely butchered that. But it is also known as liquid Xanax, which he had bought illegally online. He had used his knowledge as a vet to work out what he would need to sedate these boys and where to buy it. Now, once all of the boys were passed out, Ruben would select the ones that he wanted to sexually abuse. Only on this occasion, he had given the boys 4 sweets each. And that explains why these children had such a violent reaction and why their symptoms were so obvious the following morning. It makes me sick. Like, he could have killed these children. He sedated all of the boys so that he could abuse the ones he had selected without fear of being seen by anyone else. He later admitted to drugging his wife, Susan, who also volunteered at the camp, so that she too would not witness his disgusting acts. Now, Ruben had played the sweet game on both the Friday and the Saturday evening of this particular camp. Jon Ruben pleaded guilty to 2 counts of assault of a child under 13 by penetration, 2 counts of sexual assault of a child under 13, 8 counts of cruelty to a child under 16, and 3 counts of making indecent photos of children. There was also 1 count of acquiring possession of dutiable goods with fraudulent intent, and that was with regards to temazepam, and 3 counts of possession of a controlled drug, Class C, and that's with regards to the flubberomazolum, diazepam, and temazepam. He also pleaded guilty to administering a poison or noxious substance with intent. And on Friday, the 6th of February 2026, Ruben appeared at Leicester Crown Court for sentencing. He spent a lot of this hearing sobbing and crying out no and I'm sorry as prosecutors outlined his crimes. This is not a man who's actually sorry though. This is a man who's sorry that he got caught, who's feeling sorry for himself. He was sentenced to 23 years and 10 months in prison with an additional extended licence of 8 years. Janine McKinney of the Crown Prosecution Service said, quote, "Jon Ruben posed as a leader in his faith community and a dedicated Christian volunteer. The reality was that under the respectable veneer was a relentless predator, using the positions he had secured for himself to gain access to children. The events of last July were truly shocking. Ruben showed complete disregard for his victims. These were children entrusted into his care. He betrayed that trust to satisfy his own selfish desires, leaving the victims sick and traumatized, and their families devastated by the betrayal. Although Ruben finally admitted to these offences, he subjected the victims and their families to months of uncertainty before they understood the extent of what had happened. I hope that seeing their abuser jailed will help them to move on from this ordeal." End quote. Now, it's obviously he's 76, he's about to be 77. The chances of him ever stepping foot out of prison are slim to none, hopefully. And the police have made it very, very clear that they don't believe that these are the only offences that he's ever carried out. And so they are urging people to come forward if they have ever had any strange experiences with Jon Ruben at a summer camp, as a teacher, or just in any capacity whatsoever. You can contact Leicestershire Police via their website or get in touch with them via 101 if you have any concerns. On July 29th, Leicestershire Police self-referred to the Independent Office of Police Conduct over their response time. The IOPC have notified 2 Leicestershire police officers and 3 staff members that they are under gross misconduct investigation for allegedly failing to review the information passed from Nottinghamshire Police and for not progressing safeguarding concerns promptly. The IOPC also announced that they will be conducting an investigation into Nottinghamshire Police's grading of the initial call and of how the information was risk assessed. This man was the wolf in sheep's clothing. He used all of these different positions of authority to be able to carry out these sick fantasies. His wife, Susan, who he was also drugging, came out and made a very public statement basically calling him a monster, and I absolutely agree with her. I don't think that this will be the last that we hear of this case. I feel that this is just the tip of the iceberg, so if we get any more information, we will come back and do another episode. For now, guys, we are going to leave it here. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe, leave me a comment and let me know what you think of this case. And until next time, guys, take care of yourselves.